Okay, so just before I put the primer on, I'll show you some of the edging I did. This is for the subwoofer here. You can see how I rounded it around, did all the edges actually, except for the bottom. And that was done on a router table. If you don't have a router table, you could do it with a normal router. Now for the bases, I actually gave myself a bit of an edge here. And if you look at it from a distance, it looks quite nice. I'm going to show you here. This here was a screw hole. And not a screw hole, I'm sorry, a drill hole that they made a mistake on at the factory. Rather than send it back, I filled it with 50-50 PVA glue and sawdust for my sanding. And now you wouldn't even know it's there if you run your hand over it. Okay. Coming over to the speakers. You can see here, well, we'll start at this end. I did a smaller round over, but it broke that really sharp edge and it gives it a much more organic feeling that's in keeping with the sweep. It was very easy. Use the hand router. I made one major mistake down at the bottom here, which you'll see. Let's see if I can get it focused in here. What happened was that I got distracted after I put the bit in the router, didn't tighten it down, and the bit slipped and it came all the way down to here. So again, I used 50-50 PVA and sawdust and brought it back up to square, and then just routed it and sanded it as usual, and it's going to be fine. I wouldn't try that for anything structural, but it should work out good. Anyway, next video is post-primer. This is the primer that was recommended by the paint shop. You have to do it outside. It's very gassy and very flammable. And we'll see how it does. We'll report after it's been primed and sanded. Okay, we're outside to put on the second coat of primer. First coat went on quite nicely. Of course, it wrecked the brush as I said it was going to. And covered very nicely. And also, after a bit of sanding, it's as smooth as a baby's bottom. So it's quite good in that respect. For all the warnings on the can, I haven't experienced very much odor. I did the other coat outside too. And what else to say about this? It doesn't really need a second coat, but I'm going to put it on just because I have it, and it'll help the top coat later on. So we shall return with the top coat. And oh yeah, all the repairs that I've done. You can't see the blemishes. I can't even figure out which board had the blemish as far as the hole that I patched here. And I can't, same thing with the repair of it I did at the bottom here. It's very difficult to find. So we're not going to come, any kind of repairs you do, like I showed you, aren't going to come through when you do your final painting. If you sand them properly, that is. Okay, next step is going to be the first coat. I'm going to put another coat of primer on, and then the first coat of the finished paint, finished black paint. First coat of paint is on, and it's dried. And I have to say I'm not all that enthused about the result. I probably should have sprayed it, but I didn't. So I'm going to have to live with it. But it's odd, I'll turn this over, that even with all the primer, let's see if we can get that to come through or not. I can't see on the viewfinder. Yeah, you can see that it did not adhere all that great. Little spots. It's not that I tried to put it on that thin. And over on this one, you can see any kind of little unevenness was telegraphed through there. Now if we go over to a subwoofer on the other hand, which is MDF2, this is the bottom, it doesn't make any difference. Same thing, did the same technique. You got nice smooth corners, even though there's all kinds of end grain sticking out. And you can barely see where the end grain joins the top grain. So I have a feeling it's a difference between two different qualities of MDF. Anyway, that's going to disappear with the second coat. So we'll get on with it and I'll show you the finished product, or in between the second and third coat. Okay, this is after the second coat. Some disappointments here, like this odd thing here. This is where they had drilled the hole, and I patched it and it felt really smooth. Now all of a sudden it's showing again. There's some odd blobs here that I can't figure out since I put this on with a roller. So that's kind of a disappointment. I think, you know, like I said, next time I'm going to spray it. However, the round over turned out beautifully. In fact, that's the nicest part of it. Put that aside. And the speakers here, they turned out not bad, except I've got some scuffing here. So when I do the final assembly, I'm going to have to do a little bit of touch-up with a brush. That's alright though. What isn't as alright, again, is this unevenness that has come out here. That did not appear to be needed to be smoothed out when I was doing the finishing. Now if I turn one of the units over, it's the same, kind of the same thing. There's little bits of buildup here and there, so that'll have to be fixed too. On the subwoofer, that's actually turned out quite a bit better. You can hardly see the difference between the end grains, and this is one I did a huge round over on, so it should have been broadcasting all over the place, and it didn't. And everything else seems to be okay. So I'm much more pleased with this cabinet than I am with the main cabinets. Anyway, next video will be final assembly. Just a final look at the cabinetry here after the final coat. I'm pretty happy with what came out. I'm not ecstatic because I probably should have sprayed these, but it's odd, even after all my efforts to get rid of the lines in between here, they still show a tiny bit. So I don't know quite what the answer would be to that. I'm probably being anal retentive about it. So, but it's odd because I put a larger radius on this cabinet here than I did on the speakers themselves, and yet it seemed to have taken the paint better. It probably has to do with the different MDF boards. Now on the cabinet themselves, I'm going to get this out of the way before I knock it down. Cabinets themselves came out pretty good. I purposefully left this unsanded so that it would give a different texture than the edges here. And there's the odd buildup. I turn it on its side. You can kind of see a little bit of variation there. Had I sprayed it, I wouldn't have got that. But on the other hand, I'm going for kind of an organic feel so that it would blend in rather than stick out. And I think it's going to be useful that way. Looking at it from the top too. assembly is going to be interesting. I have a few issues with directions and also with the amount of fill that they gave us. I wrote to them and they said it was enough, but we'll see. We'll see live on YouTube actually whether or not they gave us enough fill. Anyway, signing off for now. Next video is going to be assembly.